Chicago Fire Season 13, Episode 20 is missing a few recognizable faces who get mentioned by name in the episode, but one of those absences feels particularly odd given what's next for them. It's fairly common for a few members of the Chicago Fire cast to go missing from an episode here and there. Networks often use cast rotations in series with large rosters to help cut costs, but a lot of one Chicago character exits are preceded by big storylines, and that doesn't seem to be the case here. It's already known that two beloved characters will be leaving Firehouse 51 at the end of Chicago Fire Season 13. With all 51's Chicago shows renewed for next season, that leaves no doubt that Firehouse 51 will deal with the loss of their colleagues in Chicago Fire Season 14. But with Jake Lockett's Sam Carver and Daniel Keary's Darren Ritter both on the way out, one of them in particular feels noticeably absent from the show recently. Chicago Fire Season 13, Episode 20 explains why Carver's hardly appeared. Since his return, there have been numerous ongoing storylines that sometimes go ignored for episodes at a time, such as Chicago Fire's Novik and Damon romance. But Carver's relapse is the kind of storyline that loomed overhead even during his multi-episode absence from the show, particularly when Violet was struggling with what to write in her letter to him while he was in treatment. But since then, he hasn't appeared much. He had a heroic role in Postmortem, when Damon gets left behind in a fire. But Carver's role in that story was meant as a twist reveal, so he barely appeared on screen. Sam did return in the following episode to help Violet track down an unlicensed paramedic, but he was absent once again in the very next episode, in which the team has to operate on a skeleton crew. When explaining the numerous absences, Herman explains that Carver still has to complete another recovery program before coming back full-time. Since Sam doesn't appear in the promo for the next episode, despite one-shot panning by most of the cast, it's unclear if he'll be seen even once more before the Chicago Fire Season 13 final. Carver's ongoing absences make Jake Lockett's exit Warsaw, all the lingering storylines in Season 13, Chicago Med's Violet and Carver romance, feels like it's hanging on by the fewest threads. He'd already taken off the first time they didn't work out. Just as they were really beginning to mend fences, Carver left again following a relapse. Now that he's back, there's been almost no focus on the relationship between Carver and Violet ahead of his confirmed exit. With only 2 episodes left before he says goodbye, it doesn't feel like their relationship arc is getting the closure it deserves. There hasn't exactly been a shortage of toxic relationships in Chicago Fire, and Violet's been involved in an unfortunate number of them. But there's always been a natural chemistry between Mikami and Carver, and Herman's casual reference to Carver's ongoing treatment raises the concern that Sam might leave the show by washing out of treatment and getting fired by Firehouse 51. Thankfully, there are still enough options available so that Carver's story doesn't have to end in tragedy. How Chicago Fire might be writing out Sam Carver's cost-cutting departure of Chicago Fire's Jake Lockett doesn't have to mean bad news for Sam Carver. Although he could tragically die or relapse again, there's a strong chance that Carver will simply leave Chicago and return to his home in Texas. It could even give his relationship with Violet some closure, depending on his explanation for leaving. He tends to run away when he finds it hard to be around her. And maybe he just decides that he needs to run for the very last time. On the other hand, Carver's recovery could pull him in a new direction entirely. He previously tried to fill the hole in a life without alcohol by working extra shifts at other stations, but recovery could help him find a new way of filling his time that leads to a change in career path. These are both ideas that should have been given more time to build. But no matter how CBS is writing off Carver and Ritter, it'll be a bittersweet goodbye for Chicago Fire fans, who only got to know Carver for 3 short seasons before he bid farewell. With only 2 episodes left, Chicago Fire has a lot of ground to cover. Carver's absence needs to be addressed meaningfully, whether through a final conversation with Violet, a heroic last act, or a quiet but poignant goodbye. Ritter's exit, meanwhile, will likely be tied to an unexpected twist, possibly involving his family or a sudden career opportunity. One thing is certain, Firehouse 51 won't be the same after this season. And while budget cuts and cast rotations are an unavoidable reality of network TV, the way these exits are handled will determine whether fans feel satisfied or shortchanged.